explore, meet, create.
I'm really, really happy to introduce a scientist from Salzburg, from the University of Applied Sciences. And that is, I think we can already see her, Dr. Barbara Neuhofer, who is professor and head of experience design at the University of Applied Sciences in Salzburg. Also, she's the co-founder of the Experience Design Summit that took place the first time 2020 and will take place in 2021 as well, hopefully. And yeah, she's a strong supporter of also our idea of experience design as a philosophy, a mindset, and tool set towards guided human experiences and transformations. And Barbara will give us an insight of the future of event design and experience and all the values that encompass the future. And Barbara, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Gernot, for the really kind introduction. And also, of course, hello to you and hello from Salzburg to all the colleagues joining us today. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. The topic of today that I brought perhaps as a kind of an outlook into the future, also from a science side, is the topic on the future of event experiences. And within that, I would like to take a bit of a glimpse into what comes next, to not only talk about tools and formats, but dare to take a look a bit beyond that and also look into the bigger questions, bigger topics that we can see from the scientific side coming up, from psychology and a lot of different disciplines. So I brought a few words here, which are human transformation, phygitalisation, and planetary regeneration. We are going to look into what that means for the future of events. The year 2020, this has been mentioned a lot of times today and also in the last 10 months, really has been this not only year of a dramatic change, but in fact, it's the start of a decade of a revolution, of a societal shift that we have perhaps in our lifetimes. At least I have not seen that before. And this not only gives a crisis mode, but also an opportunity here. I always quite like to look at our beautiful planet Earth. And for me, when I kind of try to make sense of what does this, global pandemic crisis mean for us collectively, but also individually, I always quite like the analogy of an earthquake. What happens at an earthquake? It's here, if we look at the definition, it's essentially this shattering. It's this violent movement, something that is not expected, that cannot be seen, it cannot be planned. It just comes at any moment that people didn't really expect it. And it has sometimes very dramatic changes. But what happens after the earthquake? And this is, I think, where we are. We have this shaking. We have been really, literally almost shaken through in everything we do. And the question is really, what do we make of that as we move forward? When everything is, all the pieces are on the floor, so to say, then it's also an opportunity to rebuild, to start what works still, what doesn't work anymore, to evaluate, to find new ways. And in the Asian culture, there's always this nice philosophy of putting gold, on the bits and pieces that have been shattered to make it even more valuable. And I think with this optimism and positive also hope for our industry, but also for us as human beings, I think we can also try to make the best of it. And I think this is also something that we represent here in Salzburg, to bring this positive move. Events are changing around the world. I think this is one of the key learnings that we have seen and experienced ourselves as event organizers and planners. We have seen the whole color palette, so to say, from the physical to the virtual to the hybrid, and anything and everything in between as well. This has been drastic, but at the same time, what we have seen is also it's been a massive accelerator. It's been a catapult. And we, for some reason, also perhaps needed this change, because if I think of how long and how many conversation it might have taken to switch to virtual, to switch to digital meetings, it might have gone another decade or so to really have at this state. So in a way, it gave us an acceleration that in many industry sectors, we also really needed. Why didn't I call it just physical, digital, or something today here in the main title? Well, because I feel like digital, from the digital transformation vocabulary, is even too limited to what kind of era we are moving towards. Because it's not only about using digital tools in our physical realities, but even more so, we are creating an interwoven and unified and not to be separated digital space, where the two worlds really fluently come together. And this creates also a new kind of a reality. It's about bridging the polarities, as you can see here in the quote, to create a trans reality that captures both sides, the physical and the virtual space, and to have a unified digital space. And I believe looking at words, looking at facts is something very important, and words do make a difference in our vocabulary. And where we are moving towards is more of a really integrative digital space rather than just a few digital tools here and there, because we are going towards an ecosystem with all the data, with all the tools and possibilities that we have. As was discussed just a moment ago, this million-dollar question, what is the future going to look like? As Gernot said, we are both probably not fortune tellers, but the way I see it from my best academic and scientific viewpoint is also that we are moving, of course, now during a phase where we can't say much prediction with a lot of certainty. We have a lot of virtual events now. We can see that we keep them up and going. As soon as we move towards a more of a post-recovery phase, then we can again start these hybrid formats and go back slowly to physical as soon as the world allows us to do that. But beyond that, I think we can decide and see here we've got a short-term, a medium-term, and a long-term future. And this timeline helps also a bit to really take a longer term in the future. And as I mentioned, this digital era is something that will have a symphony, as I call it here, of different kind of events and formats that we will see. So it's no longer this one thing or the other thing, but it will be a harmonic development of a broad and colorful range of events that will be here to stay. And whenever the purpose fits, one or the other format will be chosen. In addition to that, beyond hybrid, beyond virtual, and digital events, we will also have always technology as one core layer in all the pre, during, post activities, operations around events, and that is also here to stay. To quote here Steven van Belgem, who said, every part of the offline world will have a digital layer. And that means digital is always ingrained at the core activities that we do. But what I also would like to talk about here is not just formats, because we've heard so many great insights from all the colleagues and experts who talked about the formats, what works not. But what I believe here also with this talk, what I would like to shed light on is that we are not just talking about a change of format and setting, but also about changing content, changing values, and changing design. In kind of the reports, if you scan through them, the latest ones, what have virtual events said? One of the key success factors for making a virtual event great is this constant need for engagement. That has not changed and is always this basic human need in a way. And this is something that we're trying to replicate in the virtual setting, but will always have this major role in all the different formats that we're offering. Why I'm talking about the needs? Because in fact, psychology gives us great insights here. Abraham Maslow, you might be familiar with his work from the 1960s, but I can only say for me, this model is now more relevant than ever. Why? Let me give you a bit of an explanation here. In the last, let's say, 10 years, we've been strongly focusing about experiences everywhere. Everyone tries to create great event experience and so forth. And this happens in this magic zone, which is the self-actualization. But that means we have all the other fulfilled needs kind of addressed already. But with COVID-19, what has dramatically changed is that we're almost going back to the level of safety. Or we could even say safety is now our top priority, that we need to figure out and be, considering everything that we do. And then we can again focus on peak experience, growth experience, transformative experiences, but always with this core dimension of safety needs that we need to address. So this is something very relevant for the time being. However, I mentioned, for me, one of the key things that stand out are values. And here I would like to just share a few insights of topics that I've come across that I believe are quite valuable to discuss also when we design the future events. It is about a more human approach. The word human keeps coming up, but in fact, it's really true that we crave those kind of more human, high-touch experiences. Local communities have gained much more value and consideration, again, not only because of the distances, but simply because we're embedded in our local communities and culture. And to re-access those authentic experiences, this can be done in that area. We can also learn a lot about positive psychology and human flourishing. What does it mean actually to have growth? What does it mean to transform oneself? And we are also talking about this idea of mindset shift a lot, that events are not just this place where we can have a lot of fun, of course, but also where we enter in a different way or we exit in a different way than we entered, where it's about being and becoming, where it's about learning new insights and a new mindset that not only changes you as an individual, but perhaps also longer term effect for the planet. With transformation is one of the keywords. I want to ask you personally, what are transformations and why do you think they're important now? In general, most of the people, as we said, are getting their basic needs met. So people want to have higher level kind of experiences. And this can be on a physical, on a spiritual, on an emotional level. People are on a journey. And if you think maybe about your last 10 months, we never had so much time perhaps to go into deep introspection, to deep reflection of what we want, of who we are, where we want to go, what our aspirations are. And events in a way can become this vehicle where we can explore that also in the future. And when we look into the science of transformation here, then I want to show you this mechanism from the tourism industry, which can be quite relatable. And here we can see that we can create scenarios that create deep human connectivity, environmental connectivity, and contribution. Then we need to kind of put the sprinkles of different moments of awe and wonder and those strong engagement of emotions. We also talked about senses as a design tool, kind of to really get people in flow and think about their own life in the context of a certain event. And once this happens, it's about the takeaway. How do people leave and exit an event? And this is ideally towards a changed set of values for the greater good, to overcome certain, limitations, to go beyond the comfort zone. So those buzzwords that you might be familiar with, but they really do play a role as we move towards the future. What we can generally see about events and the topic of transformation, it's about the mindset change. Here, change your view for a mindset change. And this is exactly what events kind of should offer, this glimpse to really bring people in a perspective where they say, yeah, never thought about this, seeing with new eyes. This is kind of the goal. What does it mean for the redefinition of the content and the values that we will see in events? First, hedonic and luxury consumption only might not be the only way to go forward, or might have a less role to play in the future. So people really seek experiences that are meaningful, they're mindful, that fit in their wider, let's say, life aspirations and life journeys. Also, there is this idea that we have seen also in psychology to move from a status quo self to a higher version of self, and that can take a lot of different dimensions. It might sound a bit, very much psychology inspired, but when we look at the basic, needs and who we are as humans, it's in fact something that we can feel that is very much at the center of who we are. And I would like to now just shed light on a few examples where this could be done and how it's already being done. So I'm glad and happy to also show here one example from Salzburg, the Experience Design Summit Year Zero that I co-founded and co-organized last year, which really served as this liminal space and time where people could go beyond their comfort zone. We went swimming on the lake, like at 6 a.m. in ice cold water. And it's about this physical kind of transformation as well, this mental transformation, and really go with experiences where people don't just say, yes, the food was great and I met a few people, but something in my life has changed. And as a matter of fact, I met a friend and colleague of mine, when was it, in September, so 6 months after the event. And she said, Barbara, this swimming, it changed me. Something changed in me, in my life. So, and this is something so, valuable to and grateful for that feedback to hear once you have been, as an organizer, really pushing the boundaries of what is possible, and that it's actually then well received. Other examples are here, for example, the Domus Earth, where it's all about this intimate human gatherings, again, embedded in culture and community. So this will be much more important. Why? Because travel might be more limited. It's about sustainability. It's about looking out for the planet, where we can't be flying around all the time. So if in the future we're going to fly, it might be more selective. It might be those rare and really valuable gatherings that we actually take a plane to the other side of the world, which is here now in South America, to, have this specific experience. It can also be about, a week kind of retreat stay, like here, the example of the College of Extraordinary Experiences, where you go and again, play with this, not only design tools, but also the idea on how you can transform yourself as a human being. And another example I would like to also share is Odyssey Works, who are organizing hyper-personal transformation, what they call, for the audience of one. Why is this critical? Because events don't always have to be mass scale kind of gatherings. And especially as we move towards more distance and maybe smaller, more local gatherings, we can have maybe more impact on a personal level than all the other KPIs that maybe we've been working towards traditionally. So even a reconfiguration of KPIs might be worth looking at to really be ready for the future. So to wrap it kind of up a bit, like just as an outlook, I brought a few ideas here today, but my personal view and belief is also that we can design events, no matter the scale, from large-scale events when we're allowed to have them back to the audience of one. And events really do have a potential. There is a future in our industry, and we can use them as a more meaningful also vehicle to intentionally design experiences that what we call occasion and trigger long-term transformation, that it's something that people take away from each and every one of the interactions they have. That's everything from my side for today. And I would like to thank you very much for listening, for being here for the Salzburg talk. And I send my very best wishes from the snowy outside here. Thank you.
Barbara, thank you very much. I was part of your amazing event, not just shortly last year, but what was my conclusion? High touch or high tech? That was my wrap up of your event. What can you say about it?
Yes, for the Experiences Science Summit, I definitely would say the high touch is the main priority and kind of, the main goal we try to achieve. But also, this year, to be realistic, we're trying to make it a virtual event. So we are currently working towards that, to even bring transformation virtually. I still need to co-create how we make it happen, but this will be a challenge, and I'm always happy to accept challenges.
With all the creative minds around you, all the students too, it won't be a problem. Another question for you is, what is for you personally a good experience design? If you can simplify this a little bit.
I feel experience design is something where, first of all, I leave with positive emotions. I leave with a memory to take away. Personally, good experiences are where I take away a story. For example, when somebody asks me how was this or that event, I have something that brings a smile to my face that I can really, share a story about. And if this is achieved through, of course, in the background, a lot of design tools, then this is something very, personally meaningful. And I think this is what makes one event different from the other.
Welcome to Conventa. Explore, meet, create.